right, I think I'm on. So welcome everybody to Odd Monday. Give me a thumbs up or something if you see what's going on there so I make sure I'm in the right place. Can you hear me now? There we go. All right. So I can see that you're there now. And today I'm going to do a project. You know, it is Odd Monday. You never know what's going to be happening. But I have cut 6 60-degree triangles. Okay. And I'm using a border print. So when I was cutting them, I was making sure that they were going to line up like this. So this is going to be a fun, quick little mat for whatever use you want. And what we're going to do is we're going to put 3 of these together. And again, I'm looking here to see that I'm matching up. I got to get my 1/4 of an inch first. And remember, I like to bump up that 1.8 length to about 2.2. And I am stitching. If I had more time, I'd switch to my black thread, but I'm stitching with my 60 weight white right now. Make sure I got my iron on here. There we go. And each time I'm going to, before I put my 3 and 3 together, I will press those seams. And I'm just going to use some of the templates from the basic sampler set 1 to do the quilting on this. So there's 2. Miss Ruthie, you've got to move over so I can get my thank you. She's been such a help today, tongue in cheek. And I'm going to get the next 2 and line those up. And again, I'm just sight lining right there. There's a little pearl-like border. And if any of you happen to be interested in this fabric, I do have plenty of it. You can send me an email because I don't believe I've put it on the website yet. Now, I don't want to sew the other 2 together because we want 3 and 3, but you can see how we've got our border going around. So I'm just going to cut this apart. It's really easier if I press first because up there at the top, you can see it's a pretty small space there. So I want to point out some of these little pointers to you here in a second. And if you want an actual written pattern on this, there's one available on my website. And it's called Hexagon Table Mat. But if you have a ruler that'll cut you we'll cut you a 60-degree triangle. My 60-degree triangle is 12 inches tall. And when I was picking how to start this, I surely didn't want these words, even though they're not going to make a saying around there, I didn't want those up in the middle. I wanted something that could kind of basically get lost and not matter. And so that's what we've got there. And again, when you're doing this, remember that is a bias edge that we're working with. So you got to be careful not to stretch it. And I'm looking down here, clear down here, to get those lined up. And to make this, it took about a yard. I would say to be safe, I'd get a yard and a half. And you're going to get a smaller, most likely, you're going to get a smaller one of these because you don't have to do a 12-inch tall one. You could do just a small little one like that. So it's still a 60-degree triangle, but it's probably only about 6 inches tall there. But you can see the whole idea is we're matching this up as we go around. So I'm going to lay that one aside. That's a half right there. Might as well, before I lay it aside, give it its press. The very first one of these that I did was years ago. It was one of my son's 4-H sewing projects. He did all non-wearable stuff, and he was much into math and all of that. So this was a natural project for him because of the geometry involved in the triangles and lining things up. And everybody thought he had pieced all of these together. So I'm going to lay the one that I've pressed so you can see that that forms a nice long straight edge there. And get the other two pieces ready here. I decorate for fall more than I do for Halloween, if that makes sense, because it goes right into Thanksgiving. And this is one of those that's, yeah, it's got pumpkins and all of that stuff, but it's using the word fall instead of Happy Halloween. And that's not wide enough, so I'm going to cut that and move it over. There we go. It's always nice when you can kind of see through your fabric to be able to match those up. And as you can see, I'm a finger pinner. I'm just basically lining it up and holding it in place. Okay, we've got one more seam and then we'll switch it up for our quilting. And because the fact that I press my seam to one side, you're not going to see that fact that that was white thread that I'm using. Like I said, if I hadn't been running short on time, I would have changed to black. So now we're going to get this thing put together. And I will use a few pins here. You've heard me say many times, most likely, this is not a job for wonder clips. Pins are what you need. And I'm going to go down here and get things lined up, because the outer edge, if it's not exactly lined up, that's going to be covered up with your binding. And I'm going to use my dual angle mitered binding tool, which will do those outer edges that are not 90 degrees. I won't get a chance to show it to you because I won't be done with all of the quilting, but those of you that have used the 90 degree know that it's super easy to bring the back to the front. And that would work the same way here. So if your outer edges may be a smidge off, you'll be fine. And when I pressed all of my seams so that they would be going around and not like this one going that way. So in the center here, there's not a big buildup of your seams. So I'm going to come down here and get that lined up. Yeah, my grid glider is kind of weak. It needs to be cleaned off. It's sticking on the other side, so it does its job. I've been traveling so much, I'm only home like 2 days a week anymore, and that's usually used getting ready for the next trip. This weekend I'll be in Cincinnati at the OSQE show. If anybody's in the area, teaching, I think 5 or 6 classes there. And then next week, I will be in Chattanooga, Tennessee at Chattanooga Sewing Center. If anybody's interested in taking a class there, I'm sure they still have some openings. And that will be on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And then the following week, I will be clear up north in Bemidji, Minnesota. After that, I'm not sure. I'll have to look. I can only keep a few weeks in mind. But my lady who helps me cut kits, Judy, just left. We've been cutting kits for this week's classes. Oh, you guys are going to love this when you see it. So easy and so fun. Got just one more seam to press and I'll be ready to lay it out. Look how that all comes together in the center. Is that so pretty? So cool, so easy. So what I'm using for the backing is this fabric right here. And so I know you can't see it, but it's got a little bit of the pumpkin color stripe and a green stripe right here. And that's what will come to the front. And because it's printed on the bias, it's going to be very interesting around that outside edge. And that's the main reason I chose it, because when I flip that around, it's going to, like I said, be really interesting. So I believe I have a 26-inch square of batting and a 30-inch square of backing. That allowed me to have enough to bring it around to from the back to the front for my binding. So let's just lay that off the side. I'm going to give you guys a jolt here. There you go. And we'll put our backing and batting piece up here. You don't want to see a grown woman cry, so I hope this fits on here. And it doesn't. So forget those numbers. The backing is going to be okay, but the front is not. Okay. So what I'm going to do, this is a perfect time. I don't know if you guys have heard of what is called heat press batting together, but we are going to need a piece just right here and just right there on the other side. I've got enough everywhere else, so here's what we're going to do. I am going to cut this extra piece off down here. And it's going to go underneath here like that. Because you can see I've now got enough of that. And for right now, I'm just going to pin it. I will use the heat press batting when I get out to that quilting, but that won't be on the show anyway. So coming over here, we'll do the same thing. I'll cut this off over here. Pull that back. Lay that right along there. Heat press batting is like a 1.5 inch wide piece of fusible interfacing, and you just lay it on there and fuse it. But unfortunately, mine is packed in the van because it's part of my lecture. I guess I need to keep one inside, but I didn't. So now it's ready to go. Smooth everything out. And I'm going to just put a few pins because I will start in the middle. I won't necessarily work out from the middle, but I will start in that area. If you wanted to spray baste it or pin baste it or whatever baste it, that would be fine. All right, so I need to get my thread for this. And I'm going to use a gold in the bobbin. And let's see, what shall we use in the top? I think that'll start. I'll get out my black also. This is one of my, I have a lot of favorites, but this is one of my favorites. It's Madeira. And I was in Kansas City a couple weeks ago and they had these packages, and oh my gosh, I would have been poor if I would have kept looking, because they had 8 spools together of that thread, and it's a great one for beginners too. It's very forgiving. It's a 40 weight. Guess a ruler work foot would be a good idea too. Alrighty. So I've got my machine all set. I thought I cut that thread off, but I don't think I did. And so what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to get one of my straight edge rulers. Anything with the straight edge is going to be fine. I'm going to keep a seam or a spacing gauge handy, because what I'm going to do to start with is I'm going to go straight around this. So I'm no more getting started than I'm going to turn directions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to place my needle right in that seam that's halfway in between there. And then I just need to see, how do I line that ruler up? Okay, because I just need to stitch right to there. Now, some of you may be, you're feeling good enough you could do that free motion, but not Donelle. So I'm going to get that bobbin thread up. Evidently not on that time, though. There it is. Set that foot down, the needle back in place. And what I'm doing is right here, I put it in between, and I'm pretty much eyeballing that. Now, You can see I can't really measure it. Maybe I can with it. Yeah, I can with this half. So I can measure it like that. I'm going to stitch to the next seam. That's how short it's going to be. I'm going to measure my, and this would all be random as to be what you have for your fabric, the border print that you selected. And I can already see how it is creating, see how that's just creating another little detail there. Now, because this fabric is rather busy, I'm not going to be doing a whole lot of knotting. So I'm going to come to that. I'm going to turn. And now I can use my 1/4 of an inch to measure off of my stitching. And I'm just going to go forward and back a bit. And I like to go ahead and pull my bobbin thread up to the top. So I'm going to pull that out, put that right back down in that space. And this time when I pull up, that is my bobbin thread. So all of these can get cut because they have been secured. And you can see, you really cannot see that where I went forward and back. Okay. So we've got that straight stitching done there. I'm going to look to see, so what else do I want to do a straight stitch on? And I honestly think I want to go right around this. So I'm going to put my needle down there, bring that thread up, put my foot down and my needle down. And this time I'll be able to line up right off of that edge with my 1/4 of an inch. And stitch right down to there. Need to go one more stitch. There we go. Get that 1/4 of an inch. Get you guys over here where you can see it a little bit better. And right here, I don't know if you can tell it, but it didn't match up exactly, but I'm pulling that thread with my, or that fabric with my fingernail. And no one's going to know the difference. Getting caught, my thread's getting caught on my pens. There we go. Always take time to pull that fabric back so that you got it nice and flat there. And I'm going to show you a little trick here. So when I've got a little bit too far there, so I'm pulling that back just like I did before. I'm back to where I began, but I'm going to do the inside here. So what I want to do is I want to do my little bit of backtracking, but I'm not going to cut my thread there. I'm just going to stitch in the ditch up to that top one. And I think this time it's easier for me. I'm going to go the opposite way. And again, I'm still measuring. with my 1/4 of an inch. So now when I get back to this one, because this is the last, I can just do a back tack again. Pull my needle up, pull away, come right back to that spot, bring that up, and this time I'll be able to cut all of those threads. So the first one I did, so I can cut that thread too. And I doubt that you can even see that I stitched in the ditch there. And so now I've stitched all the way around that. And that allows this to have a little bit of elevation around there. So let's get an actual template here. And some of you have probably seen me use, or you're in my one of my classes. This is one that's a straight stitch. So it's called the straightaway tool. And you could have used that too to come around through there. And it kind of has its own measuring right in it. And I didn't realize I had that right there underneath my table. So let's see what we're going to do next. Who knows? Who knows? So I'm going to take my scallop template. I think I'm going to take out my pens here as I go, because where I'm going to, I turn it around like there's a start and a stop, but because I took my pen out, I think that's why I'm doing it. I'm going to do it right here. You can kind of see this has a little scallop to it. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come right here to the corner. And we don't know for sure whether that's going to end up whole or not, but it will still be able to get around there. And I'm not drawing any lines on there. I am just going to use this top line right here, and I'm putting it right on the top of that little scallop. Okay, here we go. Stop right in the seam, okay? And I'm going to turn that, and I'm going to decide what do I want to do about that. Probably just pull it where, see where that line is, and where it touches there. I'm just going to continue just like that. I'm not going to make this difficult trying to make something match up. Stop right in the seam. Make sure this is on the line. And interestingly enough, both of those finished so that the busy part that didn't match up was in the corner of a sunflower, so it really didn't matter. Get the rest of these pins out. The real purpose of quilting is to hold the layers together. We have just always looked at it as it should add fun to it, and that's fine. But to say it always has to be exactly symmetrical or whatever. My life is too short for that, and most likely yours is too. So I'm giving you permission to go and not be such a perfectionist. So line is on the line, and wherever it touches the foot, that's where you're going to go. And every single time it has been in a sunflower that it really wouldn't have mattered. Okay. Now I'm going to do the same thing with this that I did with that other one. And that is I'm going to stitch in the ditch up to here. So I just need a straight edge and my spacing gauge. Get right in that ditch and stitch up to that line. Now that's one we've already stitched on, but we're not going to stitch on it anyway. We're doing scallops. Turn, and because we have to be on this line, I'm going to have to do a little bit of a down to that line. That one was lucky. It finished right there. Okay, we're clear out there. So I'm going to come and do that again, only I'll do it first. So it comes down into that seam. This one's going to be exact again, which was the way that other one was. Every other one, I guess. And I'm going to turn it to bring it back down. All right, now remember, I stitched in the ditch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get that straight. Actually, I got a little straight edge right there. And I'm just going to come down and go back just a bit and go ahead and pull up that thread. All right, so we've got probably pretty much enough quilting all around that center part there. You can always do more. I just wanted to make sure I got it so everything was going there. And let's see what we want to do out here. So I think I'm going to do some more straight line. So I did something there and there. So what I'm going to do is right around this edge. Actually, no, I'm going to do it right at the top of those little beads. So let's just put that right there. So I hope that what I've enticed you to do is look at some border print fabrics in a little bit different way. So you can see that you can easily create a cool mat with not a lot of effort. And this is a good project, especially if you're still getting used to your templates. Be a good idea if I turn that over. So you get the hang of using the spacing gauge and the straight line, and did a little stitching in the ditch. Now, as you notice, you're not always going to be able, as I did on those scallops, they're not always going to be able to meet up like you think they would. So sometimes you may just want to do some what I would call spot quilting. So in other words, if I was in the pumpkins, I might just go to the middle and do something in the middle here. So let me show you what I'm thinking there. So I need to turn this and tie this off. And I was trying to keep with just using my sampler set. So let's see what we can do there. I think I'm going to use this Spinifex 4. So all I need to do is find the middle, okay? Don't make it hard. Just go up here. And when one of these lines across here is straight on that line, that's the middle. Right there. Between here and here. And what I think I'll do is just center that in there. Foot down. Needle down. We'll flip it around this way. Get that lined up so it's centered again. Might not be able to see it that way. Let me turn it sideways a bit. There we go. I'm centering this seam off of that point right there. Actually, that pulled my bobbin thread up right there, so I'll just get a hold of it. Actually, I think it's up far enough to cut, so. Still pulling. So I've got something in there that is going to hold that together. And I can go to the next one and do the same thing. So I'm just going to take the marker. Come down the center, make sure one of my lines is lined up there. This is another easy way. You'll notice if I put this on 0 right here and come over to here, I'm looking at like 3.5 and 3.5. So I can come over this way, and it's easier at the bottom. So my eyesight says that's where center should be. So I'm looking at this seam on this side and this seam on this side. And I'm at 4.5 on both of them. So that's going to be my center. So another use for that centering ruler, eyeball what you think it's center, and then check by the makes it a whole lot easier. I keep hitting things because I'm close in contact here with, oops, got a little crooked there, with my camera. All right. So to make this easier, this is a 2-inch. You can see that's 2 inches wide. So what I'm going to do is put that 1 inch right there. There's my center. 1 inch here. There's the center. 1 inch the center. And 1 inch the center there. So, oops, got one more. All right. So you can see what I did there. And that's what I'll do. I've really got a lot of quilting in here that, I mean, you can always do more. I quilted here. You probably can't even see it. So there's a straight stitch around there. So after I do these, I get to decide what to do on this. I think with this down here, I'll do the same thing that I did in there. Just outline both sides, and I'll be finished with this. So I can then, before I do that outlining, I'll need to pull this back and get my heat press batting together and put that together. So my time's pretty much gone today. Do I have any questions or anything? If any of you want an actual pattern for this, like I said, it's on my website, sobizmarian.com. I think you probably have that. And the other thing is, if you want any of this fabric, you'll just need to email me. And my email is sebizy@indy.rr.com. And just tell me that you want some of the Hello Fall fabric and how much you want. And then I'll just email you through PayPal and we will get it taken care of regarding the payments. So thanks for joining me, everyone. I see somebody signed up for one of my Novi classes. Look forward to meeting you. Miss Ruthie is getting right in the picture. You guys are seeing up close and personal her head. So thanks for joining me, everyone. I'll try to get this finished up and post it on the Facebook page. Bye now.